Have you ever stood near a fire, warm, still, unmoving, only to find yourself longing for it when you walk away? It doesn't chase, yet somehow it follows you. Its heat lingers, its glow etches itself into your memory. That is the paradox of feminine detachment. A woman rooted in her essence, not reaching, not grasping, but simply being, stirs something ancient in a man. He feels her absence more deeply than he ever felt her presence. And in that stillness, in that quiet withdrawal, begins the longing, not for ownership, but for connection with what cannot be possessed. Why are men so captivated by women who stop trying? Why does a woman's step back make a man step forward? We've been taught that closeness creates connection, but what if that's only half the story? What if space, not scarcity but sovereignty, is what truly awakens pursuit? This video dives into the mystery of feminine detachment, not as a tactic, but as a transformation. We'll explore why a woman anchored in herself becomes more magnetic, not less, why her silence isn't coldness but power, and how the very act of no longer reaching becomes the moment he starts to notice, to feel, to follow. This isn't about manipulation, it's about truth, about stepping away from performance and stepping into presence, about what happens when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. Because when a woman returns to her center, the world, especially the masculine, feels the shift. And in that shift lies the answer to the question so many silently carry. Why does he pull away when I give more and come closer when I stop? Stay with me, because what you'll discover may change not just how you relate to men, but how you relate to yourself. There's a difference between detachment and disinterest, and the distinction is subtle, but seismic. Disinterest is hollow. It is disengagement dressed as strength, but it carries no pulse. Detachment, on the other hand, is full of presence. It is not the absence of care, but the presence of self. A woman truly detached isn't aloof to punish or cold to provoke. She is simply no longer outsourcing her worth to another's attention. You've seen disinterest before. The calculated silence, the delayed responses, the feigned indifference. These are strategies born of fear, not freedom. They whisper, if I pretend not to care, maybe I'll be valued more. But the soul, yours, his, anyone's, can smell the difference. Authentic detachment doesn't seek to create longing through absence. It allows longing to arise naturally in the space created by sovereignty. When a woman pulls back with reverence for herself, not resentment toward another, it shifts the air around her. She's not performing distance. She's embodying truth. Her energy doesn't push people away. It invites those aligned with her frequency to come closer. She's not testing him. She's tending to herself. That distinction changes everything. Men sense this, even if they can't name it. They don't chase the woman who is absent to manipulate, but they feel magnetized to the woman who is present with herself. Why? Because presence is rare. Presence in a world constantly trying to distract, prove, and perform is a rebellion. And that rebellion radiates. True detachment doesn't suppress emotion, it honors it. It knows when to step away, not as a punishment, but as a prayer. A prayer to return to one's center. In that return, you don't lose connection. You redefine it. You open space for mutual recognition, not emotional inflation. You see, when you are truly detached, your joy is not contingent on a reply. Your peace does not crumble in silence. You do not shrink or perform to be chosen. You rest in the knowing that you have already chosen yourself, and that is the frequency that shifts the dynamic. Detachment is not a weapon. It is a remembering. A woman in this state does not ask, will he text me back? She asks, am I betraying myself waiting for him too? That one question, asked in quiet honesty, can redirect your entire path, not away from love, but toward the kind that doesn't require abandonment of self. There is something ancient woven into the masculine psyche, the need to pursue, to move toward what feels just out of reach, not because it's playing games, but because it stands in its own orbit. Feminine detachment activates that instinct. It doesn't manipulate, it mirrors his deepest longing to find something worthy, not of control, but of communion. Men, even if they can't articulate it, are drawn to sovereignty, not the loud kind that demands space, but the quiet kind that occupies it effortlessly. When a woman is no longer orbiting him, when she is no longer available on demand, he begins to feel the pull. Her absence is not a void, it is an echo. And echoes, unlike silence, linger. They stir reflection. They whisper questions he can't ignore. Why do I notice her more now that she's gone? Why does her stillness haunt me more than her affection ever did? This is not rejection. It's resonance. A man feels it in his body before his mind catches up. Her detachment doesn't say, I don't care about you. It says, I care about me. And that message, though unspoken, reverberates. It invites him not to chase for validation, but to rise into a more present version of himself. Attraction born from detachment is not about punishment, it's about polarity. Masculine energy moves toward direction. Feminine energy, when rooted in self, becomes that direction, not by effort but by gravity. It's not about making him feel your absence. It's about becoming so centered in your presence that absence is felt when you're no longer there. Men may not know why they're drawn to her, only that they are. It's not in the words she speaks, but in the space she keeps. The space where his projections fall away and he's faced with the truth of her wholeness, and maybe for the first time his own lack of it. The psychology here isn't mysterious, it's primal. Men are attuned to value, and the woman who values herself is rare. She's not asking to be seen, she already sees herself. That certainty becomes the signal, louder than any words, clearer than any declarations. So, when you step back, not with bitterness but with embodiment, he feels it, not as a game but as a call to move towards something that does not beg to be caught but simply is. And that is the essence of true attraction, not the pursuit of need but the recognition of presence. There comes a moment, quiet, unannounced, when a woman turns inward not out of despair but out of a deeper call. Not to escape love, but to remember herself. This is not a rejection of connection, but a reorientation to truth. And that truth is this: no one can complete you, because you were never incomplete to begin with. Individuation, as Carl Jung taught, is the sacred path of becoming whole. Not perfect, whole. It is the peeling away of every layer that was put on you, expected of you, taught to you, until what remains is not a role, not a reaction, but a revelation. You, the real you. This process is not linear, it is not soft, it is fire. The fire of remembering, the kind that burns through false identities. The pleaser, the performer, the pursuer, and leaves behind something molten and real. Individuation is not the ego's victory, it's the soul's return. It's the moment you stop asking, am I lovable? And begin living as love itself. Self-sourcing begins here, not in isolation but in intimacy with your own essence. You stop begging the world for reflection and start becoming your own mirror. Your worth is no longer a question, it's a frequency. One that doesn't ask, do you see me? But declares, I am here. The woman who walks this path does not harden, she deepens. She no longer sacrifices her truth to be palatable. She no longer withholds her voice for fear it won't be understood. She speaks because her voice belongs to her breath. She loves not to be chosen, but because her heart has space to give. Her presence is not a performance, it is a practice of integrity, of aliveness, of self-remembrance. And when she detaches, it is not a dismissal of love, it is a return to it. Real love, not as dependency, not as validation, but as wholeness shared. She is no longer willing to twist herself into someone else's idea of value. She reclaims her form, her timing, her path. This woman, rooted in her individuation, cannot be possessed, only met. She does not chase, not because she's indifferent, but because her soul is no longer starving. And this changes everything. Men feel it. They may not understand it, but they feel it. She becomes a mirror, reflecting not just desire, but depth. Her gaze doesn't say, do you want me? It asks, can you meet me here, where I already am? And suddenly, the relationship dynamic shifts. No longer is she orbiting him. He must rise into himself just to stand beside her, because love in this space is not an escape from loneliness, it's a communion between two beings who have already come home to themselves. True union can only happen between two whole people. Otherwise, it's just dependency dressed as devotion. Individuation ensures that when you choose someone, it's not because you need them to fill a void, but because your soul recognizes another on the path. There is a power so often overlooked it's mistaken for passivity. The power of silence. Not silence as suppression, but as sovereignty. A woman who does not react in the face of provocation is not weak. She is rooted. She doesn't withhold because she's afraid. She withholds because she's aware that not everything demands her energy. Non-reaction is not indifference. It is discernment. It is the conscious choice to respond from wisdom, not wounding. And men feel this. They are used to emotional reactivity, drama, urgency, pleas for clarity. But when she meets disrespect or ambiguity with stillness, it rattles something deeper. He is no longer in control of the narrative. Her silence becomes a mirror, forcing him to sit with himself. Stillness has gravity. It pulls, not by force, but by contrast. It says, I do not owe you my chaos. I am not here to perform my pain so you can validate it. This is emotional maturity. This is depth disguised as quiet. Imagine a moment. He sends a dismissive message, expecting a reaction. But instead of retaliation, she remains centered. She breathes. She pauses. Maybe she walks away, maybe she journals, maybe she simply lets it pass. That absence of response is not emptiness, it's full of presence. And it creates space. Space where truth can rise without being chased. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Non-reaction gives you that chance. It's a pause that protects your power. And here's the quiet truth. The one who doesn't scramble for control is the one in possession of it. She chooses her peace over proving a point. And that kind of emotional resilience, it doesn't scream for attention, it commands it. So when your instinct says, respond now, ask instead, what would my highest self do? Because the one who controls her response controls the dynamic. And in that control is not manipulation, but liberation. There is a kind of woman who enters a room and turns heads. Not with noise, not with demand, but with direction. Her presence doesn't say, look at me. It says, I know where I'm going. That is the quiet pull of purpose. And there is nothing more magnetic. Purpose is not about ambition. It is not about titles or applause. It is about alignment. When a woman is in alignment with what sets her soul on fire, her energy changes. She no longer clings, waits, or watches for validation. Her days are filled with meaning, and in that meaning she becomes radiant. Not because she's trying to be seen, but because she's simply living. Men notice. Not because she's performing femininity, but because she is embodying wholeness. She is not reaching outward, she is building inward. And in that act of self-devotion, she becomes unforgettable. The woman who lives with purpose becomes a force, not because she dominates, but because she emanates. Her love is not transactional, it is not offered to gain. She gives not to be needed, but because her cup is already full. Purpose silences the question, am I enough? You no longer shrink to be loved. You expand to be true. Think of the women who stay in your memory, the ones who moved with intention, not just beauty. Maybe they were artists, activists, mothers, mystics. They didn't wait to be chosen. They chose themselves, and in doing so, they invited others to rise. This is why purpose is the ultimate magnet, because it speaks the soul's language, because it communicates that you're already whole, already lit from within. When a woman stops asking, who will love me, and starts asking, what am I here to give? Her energy shifts. She moves from hunger to generosity, from fear to fire, from waiting to walking. And he, if he is aligned, doesn't just follow, he aligns. So don't build your life hoping to be loved. Build your life because it's yours to build. And the love that is meant for you will meet you on that path, not as a rescuer, but as a witness to your becoming. At the end of every unraveling, there is a remembering, not of who you were taught to be, but of who you've always been beneath the layers. This journey from detachment to individuation, from silence to purpose, is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the essence that's been waiting for you all along. You now know this truth. Men are not irresistibly drawn to women who try harder. They are drawn to women who no longer try to be chosen, who no longer shapeshift for acceptance, who stand not in arrogance but in authenticity. The flame that does not chase still draws the moth. And so do you when you burn from within. Feminine detachment is not about withholding love. It is about anchoring that love in self-respect. It is not disinterest. It is deep presence with your own soul. It is a commitment to no longer begging for breadcrumbs when you carry the whole loaf within. And when you live from this truth, something shifts. Not just in your relationships, but in your rhythm. You stop rushing, you stop proving, you stop reacting. You begin choosing, you begin breathing, you begin building. You become magnetic, not because of what you say, but because of what you are. You now understand that true attraction is not fueled by need, it is born from presence. When you no longer chase validation, you open space for resonance, and the man who is aligned with your frequency will feel it. Not because you lured him in, but because you no longer needed to. He won't be drawn to the performance. He'll be drawn to the peace. The way you hold yourself in stillness. The way your joy doesn't flicker when he turns away. The way your silence echoes louder than your words ever did. In that presence, he doesn't find a conquest. He finds a reflection, a challenge, a call. And you, sovereign and self-sourced, no longer ask, will he stay? You ask, does he expand me or shrink me? Do I feel more me when I'm with him or less? Because individuation isn't just about finding yourself. It's about refusing to lose yourself again. You are not a fragment hoping to be whole. You are already whole. You are not a vine wrapping around a tree. You are the tree, rooted, reaching, rising. And when someone loves you from that space, it is not to fill a void, but to honor your fullness. That kind of love doesn't just feel good, it transforms. So walk forward not with urgency, but with reverence. Do not beg to be chosen, choose yourself. Do not wait to be seen, see yourself. Do not fear solitude, embrace it as sacred space. And know that the love meant for you will never require you to abandon your center. It will meet you there in stillness, in strength, in truth. Let others orbit, let others chase. You stand. And if this message stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of your own depth, your own light, then let this be your new beginning. Keep watching our next video about 5 reasons why the universe sends you someone you can't be with. Subscribe for more videos that awaken, not just inform. Like this video if you're ready to reclaim your power, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded. You were never meant to be rescued. You were meant to rise. And until we meet again, may you walk in your truth, speak with your soul, and love from your fullness. You don't need to become magnetic. You already are. Just remember, just return.